Today, we are talking about all things AI, and you're really going to want to stick around for this Spotlight series, which is the mini episode where we get to dive into people, businesses, and systems, things that you need to know about as a short-term rental host. Today on the Boosted podcast, we've got Naim Payman. He's the CEO of Guest Guru, which we're going to be speaking about today. Honestly, this is so exciting, and this is something which I've had firsthand trials of, and I'm excited for you as our listener to get used to this. Naim, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome along.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, whereabouts are you in the world, and can you give me a bit of history of how you've come to be in charge of Guest Guru?
Sure, yeah. So I'm in Albania at the moment, which is where I grew up and back and forth between here and the UK. But AI runs not only in my blood, but also in my name. So I don't know how my parents knew all those years back when they named me Naim. There we go, guess the question. So I started off by managing service apartments for various owners, and then I went into leasing entire blocks of flats and subletting those, or as they call it in the US, arbitrage, without knowing that it was a thing, without knowing that there was a whole community of people who were doing this. And that grew considerably, and within 6 months, we went from having 5-6 units about 50-60 units, and things started going pear-shaped. So I decided it was time to slow down and started developing some tech. So that was Zivu, Guest Guru, which has turned into a full channel manager and property management system, path manager, booking engine, and so on. And then I kept working on that. Once we started using it, we then had another growth spurt. We went from about 60 units, 150, 200 units, and then COVID hit. And we lost about half of what we had and had to start rebuilding somehow. So about 6-9 months into the pandemic, I decided to start buying hotels because the prices had plummeted. And acquired 9 hotels within 9 months. And luckily, we built the system in such a way that it could deal with multi-unit setups. So we manage both our hotels and our service apartments from the same central login, centralized reporting, and task management, and so on. And then last year, I acquired a wedding venue as well. After I got married at the venue, we said it's for sale. I said, okay. So we've gone into weddings. No tech yet for the wedding side, but who knows in the future.
What is Guest Guru? How can it help them?
So it's an AI chatbot based on ChatGPT, basically, which allows you to automate replies to guest inquiries. And we've now also created a chatbot which you can actually embed on your Boosty website, and you can use for direct inquiries, or you could use for direct bookings. We currently don't have the ability to distinguish between information that can be released before booking and after booking, but we're working on that as well. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to have a distinction, and you'll be able to use it both on the website as a sort of sales tool, but also following booking as a centralized information database for more specific questions that you only have to share with guests that have already paid or met whatever conditions you want to set.
And can you now integrate with Airbnb? So if there's people who have got their listing on Airbnb, obviously that's one of the worries originally, why Guest Guru changed hands in the first place. Can you now work with Airbnb?
So you can't work directly with Airbnb because of discontinued email forwarding service, which Guest Guru was using previously. But if you use one of the PMSs that we've integrated to, so Zivu, Guesty, a whole bunch of others, then yes, you can use it with Airbnb. And what's more is that you're not limited to just using it with Airbnb anymore, but you can actually use it for VRBO, for Booking.com, for your direct bookings, and any other channels where you've got email communications coming and flowing in through your PMS or channel manager.
That's amazing. So as long as you're with one of the partnered PMSs or Zivu, then you're able to connect to not just Airbnb that they used to, but all of them, which is just amazing. And everybody knows, right, these days when you've got an email that comes from AI because it says, I hope this email finds you well, and all that sort of stuff. But have you still got it where you can kind of help with the tone? Can you still do that on Guest Guru?
The pirate tone if you want.
Ah, amazing. Yeah. So that is one of the best features on it. How can you see this kind of shaping in the future? What are some of the things that you would like to do, or how can you see hosts using this in the future?
We were working on adding all sorts of features to it, and obviously more people start using it again. List of desired features keeps increasing, but we've got things like general FAQs. So at the moment, you can add FAQs to different properties, and then that information gets used in the answers. But we're working on adding a level at the company level, basically, where you can add FAQs that apply to all properties to make it easier to input data and the chat to have that information. Hopefully, at some point, we'll also work on automating replies to reviews. So again, we'll have information from the listing, and I'm not sure yet whether we'll be able to, but can match it up with the booking. And if we can feed information from the previous communications to the guests, that might be able to improve the accuracy of replies on that as well.
Nice. So exciting times ahead. One question.
Open to other ideas, I wasn't planning on buying this or creating this. So.
Well, speaking of other ideas, as I said just before we went live, I was on a mastermind speaking to Dina from Keys to Kelowna, based in Canada, and she said that one really cool idea would be is obviously all the questions that it gets asked, it must know what the most common questions are, and if there could be a hint for hosts, to know what are the top 15, 20 questions that it's getting asked, and then already prepare that answer, because you just get chances are it's going to get asked. Is it learning? Is it doing things like that? To what's the limitation, I guess?
We haven't done any work yet on proposing FAQs or proposing answers, and the FAQ bit that's the input you're talking about, right? So that I struggle to see how we can generate that without the host having an input on it. Because there'll be specific things about the listing or the way that the host does business. But we should certainly look at trying to extract some of the more common questions and providing those as templates almost when hosts are adding the answers to the FAQs.
Yeah, that makes sense. And ultimately, I mean, as long as everybody listening to this, right, is probably a host of some degree. Most people are either going to have if you're old school, got a handwritten guidebook, and in which case it's probably printed. So you've got all the information already somewhere where you can then paste it into the Guest Guru system, or they've got a digital guidebook. Again, they can just take the information, copy and paste it into or alternatively, they've got a website or somewhere where you can just generally get all the information that you send to guests, even your emails. And I found it really quick and easy to set up personally, because although I had to input that information, ultimately, it wasn't like I had to think, what shall I tell this? It was like, hey, I've got all this information that I already sent to guests. Let's just put it in. And yeah, the results were fantastic.
Having a blast, gonna get it on the Bruce Lee podcast. Bruce Lee like Bruce Lee, cause it's so hard and the T is loose leaf. Making up those rhymes, don't write it, just do it loosely.